Greetings, vinyl community. I just returned from the dentist's office to find on my doorstep a lovely surprise. As you may have guessed, it was some VCLT, and it was from the Vinylverse. Yes, Bill at the Vinylverse has sent me a surprise, and we're going to find out together what it is. And none of this, I've already cut all the bits of tape except for one little one that I'm going to symbolically score off. No, you're going to see the entire surgical operation starting now. Okay, from east to west, and then from west to east, and from north to south. We're in. And there's a note. Thank you, Bill. Cardboard! Just what I always wanted. I needed cardboard. We have, oh boy, Archie Shepp, Mantra 2. This is terrific. On the Arista Freedom label, so it's got to be good. Love it. Thank you, Bill. Original inner sleeve there. There's that Arista Freedom label. This is awesome. I don't know this album, so who's on it? Archie Shepp on tenor and soprano saxes, Charles Majid Greenlee on trombone, great, Dave Burrell piano, Cameron Brown bass, and Beaver Harris on drums. There's Archie with his cheroot. There's something else. Ooh! Michael Rouse Broken Consort. Jade Tiger. I have something else by Michael Rouse in my collection, but I don't know this one at all. And this is on a label I don't recognize. In fact, I don't even see a label name. Oh, it's Disque du Crépuscule. Yeah. Thank you. This is fantastic. So it's got electric bass, soprano sax, percussion, and Michael Rouse on keyboards. Awesome stuff. And another. Oh. One of my very favorite artists and one I do not have. Well, actually, two of my favorite artists, but Anthony Braxton I collect avidly, but did not have this one. Anthony Braxton with Max Roach, or actually Max Roach featuring Anthony Braxton. So it's technically a Max Roach album, I guess. Birth and Rebirth. And, it's just the two of them. It's a duo, drums and reeds, with Braxton playing alto, soprano, and sopranino, plus clarinet. This is fantastic. Thank you so much, Bill. I'm going to go offline and read the note. Okay, so on advice of counsel, I'll just leave out the actionable part and read what's left. So, hi, Michael. I hope everything is well with you. I've been wanting to send you some VCLT for quite a while now. I've finally been able to put together a package of a few albums that I think you would like. Very much so, yes. You've been very generous and kind to me. This is just a small way to say thank you and hopefully bring a smile to your face. Well, it did that, and it's not so small. This is amazing. If you already have any of these, which I don't, or find they are not for you, which they are for me, feel free to pass along or trade in. Thank you for your continued friendship in the VC and keep on sharing your love of music. All my best, Bill, the Vinylverse. Thank you so much, Bill. This was so unexpected, and I'm just blown away. These are great, and I just pulled, this is the Michael Rouse album that I have, a Lincoln Portrait, one of the first releases on the redoubtable Cuneiform label. And the musicians are a trio. It has a different soprano sax player, the same bass player, and no percussionist. Instead, there is drum machine. This is kind of minimalist, a bit in the Philip Glass vein. So, great stuff, but a little bit of a New York downtown music feel. So while I'm at it, I might as well just show some of my other recent finds and acquisitions of various sorts. This came, I'm not going to pull everything, but this came too late for the Show Us Your Stones video I did a little while back. A really nice, clean, original mono copy of Got Live If You Want It. Not a great album, not a great sounding album, but still a lot of fun. And not one that seems to turn up as much as the more classic studio material. I did not brave Record Store Day in person, so I've got a few items on the way. I did go to my local shop the week after just to see if there were any leftovers, which there were not. But I did already receive a copy of the Ned Logan Sea Stones sets 4 and 5 on blue vinyl. And as with the original Sea Stones LP that was released in 1974, I think it was, around the time that Ned Logan was touring with the Grateful Dead and doing a set with Phil Lesh in between the first and second sets of the Dead's main performance of this avant-garde electronic improvised Sea Stones music. And this does feature Phil Lesh, Jerry Garcia, Mickey Hart, so you've got half of the Grateful Dead there. You've got David Crosby, Grace Slick, David Freiberg, and Spencer Dryden, so 3 former Jefferson Airplane folks there. And boy, this does not sound a whole lot like the Grateful Dead or the Jefferson Airplane or Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. And I remember running into a guy in at a records show years ago who found a copy of the original Sea Stones album, was very excited by just seeing the personnel. Oh, this has got to be really great. It's got Jerry Garcia on it. It's got Grace Slick. And I kind of had to break the news to him. This may not be what you're expecting it to sound like. Brian Auger's Oblivion Express, the first Oblivion Express album from 1971. This was shipped, this was an eBay acquisition, and it was shipped in just one of those plastic bubble pack envelopes, a big one, with 2 pieces of cardboard around it, but not secured in any way, so it was free to slide around inside, and it was definitely not properly packed, and when I got it out, the cover was like covered in some kind of scum, and the record looked like it had been handled by somebody with, muddy fingerprints, and the inner sleeve had mildew on it, so that went right in the trash. But when I cleaned up the record, it was beautiful. It played perfectly, not a scratch or scuff or needle mark or pop. It was a beautiful condition record despite being handled so badly. And this has been submerged in some kind of liquid, and there's a little bit of loss to the cover that you can see around the bottom, but it doesn't look that bad, and it was cheap. It was very cheap. But I couldn't believe how nice the record was under all that grunge and grime. This opens with a cover of John McLaughlin's Dragon Song. So he's definitely setting out the shingle. This is jazz rock. Very good, steamy jazz rock with great smoking organ from the leader. First 2 tracks. There are only 6 tracks on the album, so they're longish tracks. First 2 tracks are instrumental. The rest of the album is vocal. Pretty good rockin' vocal songs. Not Mahavishnu style fusion. This is more on the rock and R&B side of fusion, but great stuff. Really enjoy this album a lot on RCA. Marion Brown, 3 for Shep on my favorite label for jazz, Impulse. This title is kind of a play on Archie Shepp's own debut for the Impulse label, 3 for Train, which he was joined on the cover for which he was joined on the cover by John Coltrane, and he was doing John Coltrane's material. This one is one side of Archie Shepp's compositions and one side of Marion Brown's own compositions, and all fire. Great stuff. Also on Impulse, Pharoah Sanders Live at the East. I actually went through a couple of copies of this. I won one at auction, and it turned out to be in unacceptable condition. It had skips. It was just rotten. So I managed to score another one, and this one's beautiful. And this album is beautiful. This is so spiritual and has just really sweet melodies to it. It's got the totally free yowling saxophone, but it's underlaid by just lovely little memorable riffs and a spiritual gospel feel to it. One of the best. Love Pharoah Sanders' output from this whole late 60s, early 70s period in particular. Sun Ra and his orchestra live at Mantra. This is from 1976, released in 78 on the Inner City label. It's a double LP, and it is, as it says on the package, live at Mantra. Double LP featuring a full side devoted to Take the A Train, and Sun Ra with a 22-piece version of the orchestra. He takes the A Train all the way to Saturn, boy. He doesn't get off at the local stops. From the budget classical bin again, the 49-cent bin, album by Alan Hovhaness, Fra Angelico and Requiem and Resurrection for Brass and Percussion. The mystical Armenian-American composer Alan Hovhaness doing a tribute to the painter Fra Angelico, and the Requiem and Resurrection, just the title of that gives you the kind of solemn and processional feel that you get from so much of Hovhaness's music. And this is on, like so many Hovhaness's works, on his own Poseidon Society label. Also from the cheapy bin, highlights from Mozart's Marriage of Figaro. Used to have this album back in the day. Great stuff. It's got almost all the highlights. It doesn't have the opening, the part that comes after the overture where they're counting figures, which I really like. But the funny thing about this is the day after I got this, I watched the movie The Children Act with Emma Thompson. And in that movie is performed Non più andrai from The Marriage of Figaro, which is on here. So it was vibing, it was in the air. Robs from Sound Strange has shown this not very long ago. Japanese composer Toru Takemitsu, Asterism for piano and orchestra, Requiem for string orchestra, Green for orchestra, which is subtitled November Steps 2. And as Frank Zappa once said, I think November Steps kicks the shit out of Tarangalila, referring to the coupling of those two works on a double LP. And the Dorian Horizon for 17 strings. There's the man himself, along with Seiji Ozawa. Back in 1971, I read a review in Rolling Stone about Pentangle's The Cruel Sister album, and I'd shown that album and talked at length about it in the past, but the review also featured a solo album by Pentangle member Bert Jansch, and it was this one, Jack Orion, which is connected to the Cruel Sister album because that album features a full side version of the song Jack Orion. The version on here is a little under 10 minutes, so not as elaborate, doesn't have the instrumental break that you get in the Pentangle rendition. much more traditional. This features John Renbourn, of course also of Pentangled, accompanying Bert Jansch. Bert does all the vocals, banjo and guitar, and John Renbourn does the second guitar. And one of the most notable tracks on here, other than Jack Orion itself, is Black Waterside, which is very, very much the source for a famous piece of music by that notable English quartet Limp Blimp. Second album by Jade Warrior, Released. This, I think, is the only album I have on the Vertigo Swirl label. This is a US Vertigo release in a regular gatefold cover. I think it might have had a different kind of multi-folding cover in the UK edition. And this is not the best Jade Warrior. I'm a huge, huge fan of the material they recorded for Island, starting a couple albums after this one. All those albums with the matching horizontally striped cover artwork. Those are all amazing. This one is a lot more rock and roll-y, especially the track We Have Reason to Believe, which is a real hoot, but totally blowout rock and roll. There is one long instrumental piece that dominates side 2. That's worth the price of admission. Otherwise, this is just a bit so-so. And finally, Company 1. This is the first of a long-standing series of British free improvisation albums. Not entirely British. They're musicians from various parts of the world, but it's centered around Evan Parker and the late Derek Bailey from the British free improvisation scene. And this is 4 musicians: Martin van Regteren Altena, Tristan Hansinger, the bassist, Tristan Hansinger on cello, Evan Parker on saxophone, and Derek Bailey on guitar. But they do not play together. There are 4 pieces on the album, and each one of them is a trio. So all the possible trio configurations of these 4 musicians get one, say, about 10-minute piece each. They actually recorded about 25 minutes, half an hour each, and then it was cut down to the best bits for release on the album. There you go. That's what I'm showing for now. Thanks very much for watching. Thanks again, Bill. Amazing. I'm just so happy. Be well, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.